Alright, welcome back to the 250 Big Red project. In the last video we discovered that the engine wasn't a total loss. So that is awesome news. Now I just wanted to be clear about a couple of things before we continued on. This project, I'm not trying to do a full restoration and put it all back to original. Okay, I basically want to get this thing back on the trail so that it's getting some more mileage out of it. I'm not going to worry about finding tail lights and original manufactured gas tanks and levers. I don't care about all that. For this particular project, all we're trying to do is get everything back to working order and get it back on the trail. Okay, we're going to start by just pulling off what's left of these fenders. I took the other one already off camera. I know that this one's got a little Frankenstein happening here, and you know what, I'm okay with that. I don't want to go spending a whole bunch of money on a fender that's probably going to get crunched again anyways. So we're probably just going to reuse that one, and I'm probably going to go to some sort of ATV scrapper to get the other side. So holding this fender on, looks like there's 2 bolts here, 2 here, 2 there, and 2 there. So that gives you 2, 4, 6, there's 8 bolts holding this little fender on. Seems a little bit overkill, but it's a Big Red we're talking about. The toolbox looks to be in perfectly fine condition. There's no holes in it. That's pretty common. There's usually a big hole in the bottom of the toolbox. People putting heavy stuff in it and then hitting the trail and it rattling up and down and eventually putting a hole in the box. But this one, it's in good shape. So as you can see, it's been painted about 19 times, I would say. Yeah, paint lasts for so long, but it doesn't last forever on plastic. It's got the one Frankenstein fix right here. You know what? I'm okay with that. We're not trying to make this thing back to showroom condition. I'm sure there's some guys out there that would like to have this thing back in showroom condition, but unfortunately, I have so many projects that this one does not take my priority. The front fender doesn't look too bad, but I can see it's been painted the same way, and it just doesn't last. So if we do have to go against everything in my body painting plastic, I want this off so it can match the rest. Okay, the front fender is off, and I'm looking at it. It's not in bad shape. It's been painted, which sucks. But I noticed that the mud flap is not there, but the hardware still is. Missing this mud flap is a huge pain in the butt, because as soon as it starts raining, if you don't have that mud flap, your shins are soaking wet immediately. So I'm gonna try to find a mud flap for this, because I know what it's like to try to drive one of these things in and around any kind of moisture. So before I rip those away, I'm gonna see if I can find a mud flap. Okay, in the first video, I mentioned that the headlight was removable, and it is. We got some funky wiring going on here, obviously, but to remove the headlight on a 250 Big Red, you've got these little ears that fold down and go inside those little rubber grommets. There's one on each side of it. You just release those. Then under here, there's just a little pressure fit rubber grommet as well that sits on this rack. And you just pull that up. And then there's a nice little cord. You can actually take this out. Get a little better shot. So you can actually take the headlight out and shine it around. So let's say, you know, you broke down on the trail and all you needed to do was fix a spark plug. Well, you just take your little light here while your buddy is working on it and shine your light on it, and he can see what he's doing. Pretty awesome. Okay, we're going to pull the front rack off because I want to clean it all up and paint it again. So it looks like it's going to be a couple 12 mils. Okay, there's 4 12 mil bolts holding the rack on. Okay, in hindsight, I probably didn't have to pull off those 2 bolts, but when I did, it made it easier to get down at the this light box. The bolts are right there for it. There's 2 10 mils, so I probably could have left those in, but yeah, I did like that. That's hindsight for you. Okay, the rack is off. It's orange and black. Oh boy. Okay, while I'm up here, I'm actually gonna take a look at these boots. You think we can salvage them? I didn't think so. So I don't know what those are worth. I do have to split the forks to put them on, new ones. It's not a big deal, but we'll see what they're worth and if it's in the budget or not. But those are probably gonna go. All right, something I didn't do on camera, which it does happen quite a bit actually, is that I pulled the 19 mil differential bolt out and I sucked all the old fluid out, inspected it. There's no metal shavings or nothing like that in it. It was actually fairly clean, and I replaced it with some 80-90 gear oil. So now I know that that differential has been serviced, and we're gonna move on from there. All right, something I didn't mention before was we have no key for this. There used to be like a plastic box. It would sit right here. It would hold the key, and you can turn it to on or accessory, and it would show the reverse and neutral light, I'm guessing. And it's not there. So I started hunting around for the wires for it, and I did find them in behind the, well, all that headlight assembly stuff. So I may check into finding a key switch for it, because that really helps with, you know, not being stolen. Okay, something else I noticed was this stray red wire. I'm not really sure what it's for. It's got some old duct tape on it, but we're gonna go ahead and pull that out of there. We'll follow it back, see where it goes. Okay, it looks like it was going to the battery. Okay, we're gonna take a little bit of a detour here. I was following that red wire all the way back. It went to the battery, and then I noticed up underneath the handlebars, there's a little push button switch. Let's see if I can get a shot for you. There's a little button right there. And the wire is ripped off the back of it. And it went all the way back to the battery. Now I noticed that the solenoid is still here for the starter. Here's our starter right here. The wires are all still there. The solenoid wires are still there. Some of these things are kind of flopping around in there we have to address later. But something dawned on me. Maybe we should check the starter. Okay, now we should have power to the trike now. Let's give the button a little push here and see what happens. Now, I don't trust those wires. There's barely anything up there. It's kind of all tore all to crap. So what we're gonna do now is we're actually gonna try to ground out the solenoid, see if there's actually any power from the solenoid to the starter. Okay, since the button isn't working for us, I'm gonna go ahead and just bypass the system. I've got the ground on the frame, we're good there. I got power coming from the 4Runner, and all I'm gonna do is I've got this solenoid hanging out right here. We got the negative post and a positive post. Now, generally, if you have a battery in the vehicle, you can put a screwdriver across those two posts and it will kick over the engine. In this situation, since we're stealing power from the Toyota, we're just gonna put the screwdriver inside this the clamp of the cables, and we should be able to just touch that negative post, and that should complete the circuit and engage that starter. So this is kind of a moment of truth. Oh, all right. So the starter does work. That's pretty rad. Okay, so we bridged the gap between the solenoid and the starter engaged. Awesome. Okay, but the problem is we got no action happening from our button here. We put the power on to the positive lead of the battery. I push the button. Nothing's happening. That sucks. But it could have something to do with either our key switch wiring. Not likely though, because it should have its own wiring. Or it has something to do with all these wires that are going into this control. And, you know, they got one taped back. This is likely some sort of supply line. But we're going to have to find a wiring diagram and do a little bit of learning before we go into that. But it sure would be nice to be able to push that button instead of kicking that Kickstarter. And, yeah, it just seems it's there. Why not use it? All right, it's time to address something that I've been kind of avoiding, and it's this foot peg. They got a hose clamp put on here, and it's probably been on there for 5 or 6 years by the looks of it. It's probably holding up just fine, but that's not leaving the garage with that thing on there. So we're going to have to go ahead and remove this whole brake system, this other bolt back here. We got some tie wire going on back there. and get this all off and start trying to drill that out, retap it, and thread a new bolt in there. Because for one, it's not safe, and two, I just wouldn't sleep at night having somebody out riding on this knowing the foot peg could fall apart. So here we go. Okay, so there's still one bolt remaining inside the foot peg here. Now, I don't normally use impacts when I'm doing videos and stuff like that. I'm going to use an impact on this bolt because this other one, it already broke. And if I just put on a big power bar and I start cranking on that, this one's likely going to break too, and I'm going to have twice as much work. So I'm going to try just using my impact, and hopefully that bolt backs right up out of there. Here's the trying. Man, did we ever dodge a bullet with that one. Bolt came right out. Smells really bad too. Whew, that's nasty. Okay, next is our hose clamp. You served your purpose, Mr. Clamp. Get all the dirt out. The sad part is we've got a long ways to drill. Okay, so to do a repair like this, drilling out an old bolt and replacing it with a new one, you need a decent set of taps and dies and a decent set of drill bits. First, we're going to start with a fairly small drill bit and work our way up from there. I have no bit lube, so I guess the old WD is going to work for now. Okay, sorry guys, I got a little distracted there. I had a phone call and I forgot to hit record on the camera while I was tapping it out. I did manage to record some of the drilling, but I didn't get the tap part. But nonetheless, as you can see, the bolt is in the hole and the peg is secured. Now I took off the brake lever here and I put a new cotter pin in it. And I was going to try and salvage this brake line here, but I don't know if it's going to be possible. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to actually clean the engine because I do plan on pulling these valve cover caps off, and if you look at them, they're pretty dirty. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to spray it down with some engine degreaser and let it sit and then hose it down. Okay, so let that sit for, well, I don't really know how long, but we'll let that sit for a while and we'll come back. Okay, so I acquired a few things. One being this fender right here, this black one. It's kind of a mess. It has one crack in it right there. But this being a budget project, I'm going to use it. I am going to be stripping off this old tail light. It's been painted black. That mud flap, it's all coming off, just to make it uniform with that one. So then the trike doesn't look all goofy with half a completed fender and one that's been trimmed down. So I'm going to delete all that stuff, make it look the same. I did acquire another front fender, but it's in no better shape than the one that we had, and it has no mud flap. It was all cheap, it all came together. And then something I did off camera was reupholster the seat. I totally forgot that I was doing a YouTube video and I did not record that. All I did was I took the old foam because it was totally full of holes, and have some of this, it's called marine leather. And the old foam was, had a bunch of holes in it. I think it's kind of lumpy right there. So I just put another piece of like eggshell off your mattress in there just to kind of bring it up a little bit. It's not perfect, but it'll do. I'm not an upholsterer. I have a few folds on it, but it's a heck of a lot better than what we had, which was nothing. So the next step is to prepare everything to, well, get painted, which I really don't want to do, but I think that's the only alternative, as opposed to buying all new fenders and spending and blowing our budget. I'd rather put the money into the engine where it matters, and maybe some lug nuts and a battery and stuff like this where it actually is going to matter more than it does just a fender. Is kind of an aesthetics thing anyway. Man, I got the old three-wheeler about 1 million pieces right now, and I'm starting to get a little excited. I'm going to get that thing up on 2 wheels. I'm going to go up that hill. I'm going to roll all the way down. I just go grab the girlfriend's toothbrush and just kind of loosen up some of the really thick grime. I really don't think she'll be too upset. Quick rinse. We're golden. Okay, so I splashed some water on it, and now I'm just going to take the old air gun and just kind of spray it all down and try to dissipate some of that water and grease, dry it up a bit so we can have a better look. Okay, so we got the big red rinsed down. Actually, it shined up not too shabby. It'd be a lot better if we had a pressure washer. We could get all them little spots back in there. But for the most part, we got the case cleaned off. And where we're going to be working here is on the top end. Okay, so behind this cap right here, we're going to have some exhaust valves, the top of the valves. And this little cap back here will be our intake valves. Okay, well, I'm all out of time for today, guys. I think we made some pretty good progress. We got rid of a few things that were a big pain in the butt. In the next video, we're going to be adjusting our valves and setting the correct drag. We might get into a little bit of wiring, and probably going to start preparing these fenders for some sort of paint. I don't like that idea. I don't think paint and plastic ever should go together, but when you have something that's 34 years old like this thing, you kind of get no choice unless you buy all new plastics. That's not in the budget. We're going to worry about a battery, possibly a timing chain, maybe a key switch, and probably a few other things that I'm missing. But like I said, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, Hit the like button if you like this kind of stuff. Hit the subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.